Hello y'all, Brett Swofford Homestead. Decided to make a video about making a greater harvest. Some of the tips, some of the things that we do here, I think makes a better harvest. Now, you might not agree with some of it, you might not want to do some of it, but just hear me out. Alright, I know y'all noticed I'm inside the bean trellis. I wished I'd have done this video before I picked the garden this morning, but I've done quite a bit of picking already. But this is where this is where the idea of this got more than I could stand. I got to do a video. I got to do something about it. I was going to save this for the garden group. I was going to do a flyer, a little handout, try to put it on it. And I thought, nah, this be better to. I started in the bean trellis because I'm a little particular about how I do beans and how I pick beans and who picks beans. I don't just let anybody in my bean trellis. Not everybody is gentle with the beans. Some people can be kind of rough. Treating the vines rough could break the vines, could lessen your harvest. So I guess first tip is, be gentle with your vegetable vines or plants or bushes, whatever they might be. I figured the beans would be a good place to talk about maybe picking on stuff like this. The leaves are turning yellow. Beans are really great when it rains. They put on a lot of leaves. They put on beans and blooms, but they put on a lot of leaves. But when it gets dry, the leaves start looking more like, this is a good example. They just come loose or die off. And when you got them all up inside where your beans are, a lot of times if you'll remove the dead leaves, like here, there's a bean under it, or the leaves over it, and the bean's actually above it. So be gentle with your vines. That'd be a good one to start out with. Pick off the dead leaves, the dying branches. I've been through here and I've picked off leaves and picked off leaves. You can't never get ahead of the bean trellis, but I figured it'd be a good way to start because, like I said, you can't never get ahead of it. There's always dead leaves, dead runners. It's not a necessity to pick them all off, but you'll find beans under them a lot of times, and you're helping the plant get rid of the stuff it doesn't need. Everything you can take off the plant it doesn't need is something it's not trying to feed or something it's trying to get rid of itself. It's got to cut it loose, or you've got to take it off. You're just lessening the work of the plant. Yeah, I could stay in here for hours. Let's move on to a different plant. I'm backing out of the green. Now, these are my jalapenos. Well, these are my jalapenos with tomatoes leaning against them. I planted my tomatoes early. They got really tall and they got really beautiful and put on some really great tomatoes. But the problem with super tall tomatoes is they grew up. They grew up this side. I tied a string at the top of the pole, which is chest high to me. They grew over the string, back down to the ground, and back up. I was being gentle with them. I tied a string. I didn't put nothing hard. And I helped them fall over. Some of them didn't want to. Some of them went the opposite direction. But you could take your hands and easily push them over. Not break them, but they kind of bend. A lot of times they will crease some. Tomato plant don't care, as long as you don't break it off. But it allows these to keep growing. This one's been to the top, back down, and it's trying its best to come back to the top again. But it's getting on top of the peppers. But the peppers is what we're interested in. I'm rabbit trailing. I can't help it. I love the garden. Jalapenos, pepper plants, things like it anyway. We're going to use this for our example. You notice these pepper plants ain't about chest high. There's a few jalapenos on it. We have learned over the years, if you want the pepper plant to grow, you want the pepper plant to produce lots of peppers, you can't leave a lot of pepper on it. The first peppers come on is usually in the bottom. And as soon as they get big enough to do something with, I want them hot. I grow jalapeno for the heat. I'll pick them off. They'll grow a few more. When they get up big enough to use, I pick them off. Just like these, I've got to pick these this afternoon. They're starting to get big enough to do something with. I don't know, it might be in the morning, but I'll gauge them. I use my hand as a gauge. I want the jalapeno to lay across my hand. That's the gauge I use for these, and I use for okra. Okra, same way. Be another good example. If you'll pick off the peppers as they get mature enough to use, not to the point of being red. We're not trying to vine ripen. It's another subject. It'll produce more pepper. Every time you pick them off, it'll make a little more pepper. The pepper plant will grow. These pepper plants will probably get 6 foot tall. I've had them to get 6 foot tall. I don't know if this particular one will or not, but this one's over 4 foot tall now. But keeping your peppers picked, keeping your fruit picked off your vines, tells the plant to put on more. I believe in the supply and demand idea. It will put on a set amount of pepper, but if you pick it off, it's going to put on more because it wants a certain amount. The whole point of the plant is to make seed, is to reproduce itself. Everything reproduces seed of some sort in some kind of, we'll call it fruit, or some kind of vegetable or fruit. But you pick them off, it grows more. You pick them off, it grows more. The plant grows, it increases. They'll get bigger and wider and better plants, because every pepper that's still on there is drawing from that plant. If it's drawing nothing but moisture, it's still drawing from the plant. It's having to feed that pepper, especially in the hot sun here. That pepper is going to need liquid, going to need nourishment. You take it off, it's going to grow a new one. It'll start a small one, might start several. This one started out with 1 or 2 peppers, and it's got several on it. I got bugs crawling all over me. All right, we talked about pepper. Let's talk about tomatoes. This kind of falls in the same category. Tomatoes, same as peppers, same as the beans. There's a supply and demand type deal going on with most plants. Plants are generally trying to produce seed to reproduce themselves. They're going to produce the vessel or the fruit with the seed in it to a certain point. When that seed gets mature, the plant keeps up with how many mature seeds, and you can slow your plant down or even stop it by not picking stuff before it turns to completely mature, like a cucumber plant. You don't pick your cucumbers off, you let them get completely mature, and most green cucumbers will turn a yellow color when they're fully mature. Your vine will quit producing and a lot of times die, because it's produced its seed, it's reproduced itself, everything's mature, everything's ready to go, and its job is complete. Tomatoes are not quite that way. You've got determinate and indeterminate and semi-determinate, and determinate's going to put on a set amount of tomatoes, and it's pretty well done. Some of them will lag and add another or 2, but most of the time they pretty well put on a set amount and they're done. So I pick tomatoes early. I won't let them vine ripen. When they start turning orange, they go in the house. They taste the same, they work the same. I'm lightening the load on the plant where the plant can produce more flowers, produce more seed or fruit, however you want to look at it. Cucumbers, I think, it's the same way. You got to keep them things picked, and you got to keep them pruned. This year has been hard on cucumbers. I hid them behind the tomatoes, trying to keep the sun off of them. And when it rains, they do really good. But it's been dry pretty well the month of July. We got less than an inch of rain in the last 20-something days. They're looking pretty rough. But they've been there a while too. We've been eating cucumbers for quite a while, a couple months. Okra. This is my run on okra. You know I've got a video if you've been to my channel. I got a video. Yeah, I was gauging that, and I also gauge okra with my hand. It's got to lay across my hand before I pick it. Cover all 4 fingers, or at least touch all 4 fingers, depending on how much I need. If I'm needing okra, I'll pick it a little smaller, but I generally try to keep the same size, because if you watch my video, I call it training okra. You will actually get better okra if you take care of your okra. I found a tomato, and I dropped it. We'll go around the other side and get it. But okra, you pick it a consistent size. That's what the video basically says. You pick out a size you like. Most people like small okra because it's more tender. And that's all you pick. You leave the small ones alone. You don't let them get too large. The okra does a supply and demand deal. It puts on 1 or 2 okra at a time, each plant. When you cut it off, it'll put on another one. Or it's actually being staged up like this. I took one off this morning. There's one started. And there's some flowers that's fixing to open. I got a flower that's already open. Every time you take one off, it will multiply and go again, as long as the plant's healthy. The last one is water. Consistent watering. That's a hard thing. It don't rain for, pretty well don't rain much at all for about a month. It's hard on the garden. We do have drip lines. I'll show you mine here. You can see that one going up that row. I've got fall potatoes started. Each row here has drip line. I can add water to it. Now if you're on, we'll call it city water. City water will not make a garden grow good. It will keep it alive, but you won't get as much production as you will from a little bit of rain. You can run your water bill up and keep it alive, but you're not really going to produce that much. You let it rain a ½ inch or an inch of rain in a week, you'll get twice as much from it. It's just better water. If you have a creek or stream of water, a well, something close to your house, spring, it's the best water for it. And if there's a way you can keep the water more consistent, you'll get a better harvest and you get healthier plants, because the up and down of being dry and then wetting them really heavy will cause disease a lot of times, especially wet plants in hot sun. I see another tomato. I have to get that one too. That's just some things I thought of. Things we do here to try to keep our harvest going. This ain't all everything we got, but you know, this is where most of my work comes from. I stay in this area quite a bit.